Imagine if every time you drove your car down the road, every time a car crashed, the wreckage just carried on going at thousands of miles an hour and just never came to an end.
Yeah, that's basically what we're looking at with space junk.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts, here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Welcome to the Interplanetary Podcast.
Putting the ace back into space.
I love the fact that you do the explosion and I always edit it out.
Stop denying the people what they're asking for, Matt. And by people, I mean me.
Sorry, I won't. Next time.
So, Matt, what number are we on now?
Podcast 17.
It's Friday the 13th, but that's okay.
Well, it is okay, but we're going to talk about space disasters today.
Oh, are we?
Right, that's it. Space debris.
It's an amazing world. After looking at the notes you sent me, but it's pretty insane when you look at the figures, isn't it?
It's one of those things. It's like no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
But actually, there's quite a lot of articles on space debris, and there's some really, really interesting ones. Now, the one bloke that sort of needs mentioning the most is a bloke called Donald J. Kessler.
Yes.
Because he came up with the Kessler syndrome.
Ah, here we go.
So which is all about how space junk, as it goes around, can actually cascade into this kind of disaster of collisions going absolutely everywhere. Which, of course, is the premise of the film Gravity, if anyone's watched it. It's what it starts off with, a cascading satellite disaster, which starts with a Russian blowing up one of their own satellites, but it's the Chinese that sort of do that sort of stuff, as you'll soon to discover.
It still does blow my mind that not more of it happens than it does.
It's
when you think about
isn't it?
You know, when you think about, how many satellites are currently up there?
Oh, well, there's about 2,000, but just under 2,300 commercial and government satellites orbiting the Earth. But the sort of real danger area is the low Earth orbit, or LEO as it's called.
Yeah.
And there's about just under 800 satellites in that region. And the reason why that's such a bad region is it'll take hundreds, if not thousands of years for them either decay out of that orbit or just disappear out into space. So it's a complete disaster because you can't get rid of the stuff without like a major effort.
So so at the moment what's the score?
Score is that we've got about 600,000 pieces of space junk. That's nothing to do with the same, and that's with bits that range between 1 centimetre and 10 centimetres in size, and there's probably hundreds of thousands and more that are smaller than that.
Yeah,
and that's causing, on average, about one satellite every year to get destroyed in this LEO orbit, in the LEO. So,
which then ironically makes more space junk, and then more space junk.
Exactly. This just gets worse and worse, which is what the Kessler effect is all about. Now, everyone's been a little bit worried since about 1978 that this is going to suddenly we'll have one of these collision events that cascades, and this will actually mean that we won't be able to use low Earth orbit for thousands of years. This could be the end of the type of space that we've come so used to, and all these satellites that are in there is just unbelievable. So it's stuffed full of satellites that are really useful at that range.
I like the guy who we'll talk about more about this guy later, but I like the guy who explained this as being a bit like the film WALL-E, about how when at the end they have to sort of fly through all the space junk to get out of Earth, and it's really difficult. He said it's not too far, it's not really that much of a fantasy film,
No, well, already when you're doing space launches, you have to take that all into consideration. The space shuttle was routinely smacked by little bits when they looked at the post-flight inspections. There's tiny little impacts all over it.
Yeah.
But the most famous kind of one of these events that's happened, and it doesn't happen. Amazingly, there's been surprisingly few disastrous collisions. There was one in 1996 when a French satellite was hit and damaged by a French rocket. But the most famous, actually, is in 2009, early 2009.
Yeah.
An Iridium-33 satellite crashed into a Cosmos 2251. And that was a head-on collision about just under 800 kilometres over Siberia.
Right.
And so guess how fast their combined speed was?
Ooh, I've no idea. Hit me.
38,000 miles an hour.
That's insane.
So that's like 20 times faster than a bullet. So these things just... And can you imagine the energy from that? So this collision basically caused about 1,600 of the Cosmos went flying off, and about 600 bits of the Iridium went flying off in all different directions. And so that's gone down to 400 kilometres high, up to 1,300 kilometres high. So it's created this like swarm of debris in a massive area of space.
So forgive my ignorance, Matt, but is there any danger of any of this space junk getting through the Earth's atmosphere and crashing down to Earth?
There is. Space junk does hit the Earth occasionally, but it's kind of actually space junk. It would be good if LEO objects came down and went into the atmosphere, because on the whole they burn up, and the ones that don't are very likely to land in uninhabited areas. I mean, as far as I know, I don't think anyone's actually been killed by space junk. I've seen some brilliant pictures of bits of space junk that have landed in the outback in Australia and stuff like that, and people have found them.
Be a cool thing to find. Definitely not a cool thing to find hurtling towards you whilst you're in your car, for instance.
Well, no. Well, there was a bit of a Long March rocket that landed in an area, but the main problem is just that is the debris in space, because it's travelling so fast. So the International Space Station, for example, just due to this Iridium Cosmos accident, has had to do two pretty major manoeuvres. So in 2011, it had to move out the way, and in 2012, all the crew had to go into the Soyuz spacecraft while pieces of the Kosmos 2251 debris pass by, and so the Soyuz acts as a kind of lifeboat. So you can imagine that they all sort of get into the Soyuz, and that's how bad it is that these bits of debris. And Tim Peake was even talking about a piece of space debris that's embedded in the window of the International Space Station. Everyone sees it as a kind of that this is how bad it is.
Yeah, this is serious. Yeah.
I mean, the International Space Station has like a thick, heavy layer all around it to stop all these bits of debris and micrometeoroids and stuff like that.
So excuse the pun, but let's break this down. So let's have a look at what. So space junk is predominantly bits of rockets and dead satellites and broken satellites. Is it mainly those three things?
It's mainly those three things. So it's mainly bits of old satellite, and it's the old satellites that they realised recently are the sort of big problem.
Yeah.
So I think in 2002 or something like that, it's now compulsory that all satellites are able to at the end of their life, find and go up into the graveyard orbit.
Yeah.
Which is like about 500 kilometres higher. So they've all got to sort of retain enough fuel to be able to move up into that orbit.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help when the Chinese in 2007 blew up one of their satellites with a missile, just to show the world how good their missile technology is.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
And that created 3,000 bits of debris.
Yeah, that must have angered a few people when they did that.
It's
Guys,
just crazy,
check out our missile. Oh, for God's sake.
And so now the sort of race is on to kind of find ways of clearing this junk. And obviously this is actually so much harder than you think, because these things are travelling 5 times faster than a speeding bullet. So it's like it's not an easy thing to do, to get all these thousands and thousands of objects out of the way. So there's a few ideas. One of the early ones was a thing called Project Orion, which was basically a massive space laser that would ablate the side of these bits, and they would sort of slowly fall down into the atmosphere that way. It was like a sort of laser broom. The most recent ones, and I'm here in Guildford actually recording this, and so and this one is from Guildford, the Surrey University, and that's the RemoveDebris mission, and there's one in Japan that's literally just happened. It was, remember the Kounotori 6 that went to the International Space Station the other day, the resupply mission, the Japanese one.
Yeah.
So they part of that mission was the Kounotori Integrated Tether Experiment, or KITE. And that basically attaches an enormous dangling rope from the side of the satellite.
Isn't it like half a mile long or something?
Yes, the length of 6 football pitches, so something like 2,300 feet, something like that.
That's insane.
And I think a lot of people think that this thing just sort of trails behind and knocks bits down, but it doesn't. What it does is it as a massive long cable goes round the Earth, it interacts with the magnetic field of the Earth and creates an electric current that actually pulls what you've got attached to it down into a lower orbit. And apparently it works.
So is it using the sort of a magnet to draw the bits of metal in?
I think it sort of creates an electric current that actually displaces some of the energy of the satellite so that it loses energy and therefore drops in orbit and starts slowing down and therefore falling back to Earth, essentially, and then therefore burning up. So that's one way of doing it, which was very, very recently tried out. So I think maybe the Japanese have been the first to actually get there and be the first to actually try a proper mission out.
Also, the Tamu Space Sweeper map.
Oh, yes, the Tamu Space Sweeper.
Which I was checking out earlier. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we don't know all the details yet, but it's got extendable arms on it that can harness momentum imparted by capturing and ejecting one object to the slingshot onto the next chunk of space junk. So it can kind of harness momentum, throw a bit down to Earth so that it can then move up to the next stage of orbit and collect the next bit of space junk. It's very, very cool. You should definitely check out this video on the blog. Yeah,
it's awesome, actually. I love the fact that they've tried to figure out a system that uses the energy of the space junk to actually help get to the next bit of space junk. It's really clever, isn't it?
Exactly, because that's the big problem, isn't it? Is that obviously these bits aren't all in one convenient sort of orbit and space. So it takes a lot of fuel to reach the next bit.
Yeah, it's an enormous one. I guess that's why that space laser broom was kind of good, because you could sort of pick things off from a distance and you didn't have to sort of go and get them. Whereas this one goes and gets them and actually uses some of the energy to go and get the next one, which I thought was really great. Cool. Yes, that's well cool. And and the RemoveDebris one from the Surrey Space Centre. Basically, that's it's a technology tester, so it's going to fly up and it's going to release various different micro satellites and then practice different techniques of bringing them down. So one of them will be a net, one of them will be a harpoon, one of them will be a sort of weird sail that slows it down, and just stuff like that. So it's a kind of tester of active debris removal, or ADR as they call it. So that's one, and that's supposedly launching this year. So the Europeans will be very much ahead there. But e.Deorbit is the European one. Now e.Deorbit's really interesting because it's looking at a satellite called Envisat. Now Envisat was one of Europe's largest ever satellites that they launched a while back. Now when did they launch it? They launched that in 2002 on an Ariane 5. And it's an enormous, it's enormous because it's on an Ariane 5. 2.3 billion euros this thing cost.
Jeez.
And it's been replaced by the Sentinel series of satellites. And funnily enough, Sentinel-1 actually has recently published pictures of one of its solar panels that got damaged because it got hit by space junk. But Envisat itself is this huge satellite that weighs 8,000 kilograms, so 8 metric tons.
Yeah, that's nuts.
This is absolutely in the worst area possible. It's at that 500 mile high, 800 kilometre LEO, and that's just about the worst place it can be. And this thing is drifting around, and it's very, very likely that it's going to smash into something. But the problem is they've lost control of it. They've lost control. It hasn't worked since 2012. So now it's the thing that everyone thinks, right, if we're going to move one piece of junk, let it be that piece of junk that we go for. So e.Deorbit is planned for 2023, and it's going to go up on a Vega rocket, and they're going to see if they can grab this thing with either mechanical tentacles or a net. and try and drag it back down into the Earth's atmosphere.
I'm going to plump for mechanical tentacles, just because it means that the films that come out from it will be much better.
Yeah, I wonder if the Surrey RemoveDebris thing, because they're gonna have a net and a harpoon and mechanical arms on that to test the different things. I wonder if the results from that will be used in this e.Deorbit mission.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'd imagine they will.
Yeah,
I hope so.
You would have thought so. I mean, normally these things don't go to waste, do they? The knowledge that we learn from things like this.
But so there's all those different ways of clearing it up. But one of the problems, actually, when that Russian and American satellite collided, they've actually sort of come to the agreement that neither of them are going to take responsibility for it, and they've sort of, it's kind of like a gentleman's agreement. But it's like these things, if one crashes into one, and it's like, oh, that's your fault, there's like a £2 billion asset that you've just destroyed. And then the debris from that then goes on to smash into another £2.5 billion satellite. And you go, well, where's this going to end? Whose liability is it that they left this like bit of space junk? And this is the problem, is that you can't go and remove these things without the permission of the people that launched the satellite.
So that seems ridiculous, doesn't it? I mean, when you say remove something that's broken, it's like, well, what are you going to get out of it now?
Yeah, you're not allowed to touch it. You're not allowed to touch it because it's under the jurisdiction of the launching state.
I think we need a new law, Matt.
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting. So I think that's one of the sort of slowing points of how to actually make this thing work. So obviously the Europeans are going to go up and move this Envisat, but they couldn't, for example, go up and move a Russian satellite that was equally as dangerous.
I think I'm going to start an online petition.
It's worth mentioning at this point, there's an organisation called JSPOC, which is the Joint Space Operations Centre, which is like a military thing, but they are the people that work out all these different bits of space junk and where they're going to go and if they're going to smash into each other. And they are also the people that instruct satellite owners and the ISS to kind of where they can manoeuvre to and what happens when they've manoeuvred to that point and whether they're at risk of another collision, etc., etc. So it's like that's a massive undertaking in itself.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
huge.
Actually... that works on a thing called Socrates, which is a publicly available conjunction assessment tool. So you can actually download Socrates. It's another one of those really painful acronyms that they've kind of cobbled together. But so you can get Socrates. Now, what's amazing is this weekend there was an enormously close call. So Socrates had decided that there was a 44% chance that two satellites were going to have a head-on collision at this 800-kilometre altitude mark. And it was like, and that's another sun-synchronous orbit. And it's like, oh no. And one of the reasons why it's very, very hard to actually tell where satellites are at any one time, particularly dead ones, is the fact that the Earth's gravitational field and magnetic field is really uneven. So there's massive dips over Canada and things like that. So so as the Earth spins underneath, it wobbles all the satellites, and then you've got the moon wobbling it, you've got the sun wobbling them. You've got all these different effects affecting.
Thanks, Canada.
Yeah, I mean it's always their fault. This DMSP F15 and Meteor 126 were the two satellites that they reckon are the candidates that JSPOC were talking about as a 44% chance of crashing. I've put a picture of those on the blog because it's always worth seeing what these things actually look like
and how big they are.
Oh my god, they were gonna smash into each other at 10 times the speed of a bullet.
Yeah, that's not.
So
that's not pretty.
No, so that one of them went up in 1976, an old Soviet weather satellite, 1976, and the other one went up in 1999, an American satellite, another weather satellite. But luckily, they did avoid each other, so that never happened.
Blimey.
But it makes you realise that there's these huge satellites that are no longer working.
Yeah,
and it's crazy, isn't it?
And there's so much stuff out there that whilst people say it's rare, it's not that rare. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not that rare. But here is a completely different perspective on it, Jamie. So I heard an interview with a woman known as Dr. Space Junk.
Oh, I like her already.
She's Alice Gorman, and she's an Australian archaeologist, and she's very, very famous for her knowledge in indigenous stone tools, so presumably Aboriginal stone tools. But she also decided, oh, hang a second, and she's... Space junk is archaeology of space. That these objects are really, really important part of our heritage.
Absolutely.
And so she started, studying all these objects. Like, I mean, she's especially interested in things like Vanguard 1 and all those kind of satellites. They're still up there that form part of our space heritage.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she was saying was that. When we have space tourism, people will go up and they'll say, "Oh, let's visit the Vanguard 1 satellite," and things like that. So actually, that would be the interesting thing. You know, when you go to Vienna, you want to go and see things of historical importance, don't you?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
one of the things you do when you go on holiday. So, and she was saying all these things, but went into some very interesting detail of the sort of things that have been flown up into space that have been almost forgotten about, like copper needles. They flew up these sort of 10 centimetre or something copper needles, hundreds of them, as a part of way of bouncing back radio signals back to Earth. And then they found a better system, but these kind of copper needles are still up in in Leo, whizzing around.
Yeah, you wouldn't want one of those to hit you.
No, so it's really interesting that she sees.
Welcome to space.
No, we shouldn't be getting. We shouldn't be getting rid of these things. They're part of our cultural heritage.
Absolutely. I mean, I just hope there's going to be a gift shop, Matt.
Yeah, and there's one other thing that relates to space debris that I thought was super cool, and that's a project called Project Adrift. And if you go on their website, it's one of those beautiful websites, really arty, and it's it goes in, and you can adopt a piece of space junk, but it's all about the problems of space junk, etc., etc. But there's a fantastic. It's by a filmmaker, Couture, and a musician called Nick Ryan, and they're sponsored by the Royal Astronomical Society in London.
Nice.
And I've noticed that Nick Ryan's got this machine called the Machine 9, which is this huge metal, sort of looks like a loom machine, some kind of enormous, almost like a wax cylinder, because it's got like record deck head shells pressed up against this metal cylinder, and it tracks 27,000 pieces of space junk and transforms that as they pass overhead. It transforms them into sound, so that you can kind of listen to the sound of space junk above you.
That's very cool.
That? So yeah, that's a website that's very worth going to. It's very informative. It's super cool, and I'm definitely going to see if I can hunt out where Machine 9 is. So
just one more time, that's Project Adrift, projectadrift.co.uk. Check it out.
Yeah, it's amazing, brilliant. So yeah, how interesting is space junk?
Yeah,
I mean, they've got to do something about it.
I mean, obviously, I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm a big fan of reading about it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Alice Gorman's a big fan of the space junk.
Yeah.
There's a space junk blog that she does that's really, really fantastic. So check out Alice Gorman's Dr. Space Junk blog as well.
Dr. Space Junk, yeah, check that out too, for sure.
Very, very interesting subject. It's obviously just of utmost importance, and I'm amazed that people in NASA can even get to sleep.
Yeah, I know. Come on, guys.
It's just, I tell you what's funny. Piers Sellers, the American astronaut, who was the third Briton in space, who died recently. He actually has got one of the most famous contributions to space junk when he dropped a spatula. There's in Project Adrift. There's a scene with and quite a lot of interviews with Piers Sellers actually, and there's a scene of him sort of cleaning up this I think on the International Space Station, scraping stuff off with his spatula, and then a conversation later on a spacewalk where he's going, "Well, I put it somewhere. I'm sure I put it somewhere."
Yeah,
it's really fun. It's amazing.
Wow. So he was using a spatula on a spacewalk to clean the space station and then just let it go.
Yeah. Well, I think he thought it was sort of clipped onto his tether, but I don't think it was. So it's just.
Well, I don't think there can be a second spatula in space.
No, I think there's only.
Surely got to be the first.
Let's hope so. Wouldn't it be funny if it survived re-entry and someone was just cooking with it somewhere?
Just came down a bit singed, you know.
This is a really heavy-duty spatula. It's ace.
Yeah, this apple pie has got a story.
Absolutely. Maybe they could use it to serve that meat pie.
Yes! Now we're getting somewhere. See, everything goes around, comes around, Matt.
What comes around goes around.
Yeah, especially in orbit.
So what else has been in the news, Jamie?
Well, there's been bits and pieces. Oh, I don't really know where to start, Matt.
Well, I'll tell you where to start.
You tell me.
You know, I was taking the mickey last year out of a company called Exspace.
Oh, yeah, what they've been up to.
The kind of Chinese SpaceX, and I said there might be a launch by the end of the year. They have launched it last weekend, so well, actually on Monday. So the Monday just gone, we had a launch of China's Hangzhou 1A, which is Chinese for speedy vessel.
Awesome.
And it's like it's actually nothing like a Dragon or anything like that. It's as a space launch vehicle, it's more like the Epsilon, that Japanese rocket that we talked about, or the Vega. In fact, funnily enough, that Japanese Epsilon, remember we talked about how they'd had large chunks of the designs had been nicked from their servers, and they were worried because it could obviously be used as a ballistic missile. Yeah. Well, this. And I'm not obviously saying the Chinese have nicked it, but it's very similar in design, this Chinese Kounotori satellite, to the Epsilon. So I'm just saying, it's supposed to be used so you can launch something very, very quickly. So if there's a disaster, say somewhere, you could quickly get one of these things together and launch up a little CubeSat as a kind of way of looking down over the top of this disaster, sort of like a very posh drone.
That's so cool. Actually, Matt, I'll tell you what, talking of CubeSats, tomorrow, we are January the 13th today, but on the 14th, tomorrow, we have Japan's SS524 rocket.
Oh, yes.
That is going to be a launch tomorrow.
Well, I mean, the launch tomorrow that we should really be talking about is RTF, Return to Flight.
SpaceX Falcon 9.
Elon Musk. So SpaceX should finally be returning to flight tomorrow with more Iridium satellites.
Everyone,
they don't all smash
your
into
fingers
other people's
crossed.
Satellites.
Don't panic. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong is Iridium and SpaceX.
Come on, SpaceX.
Notorious.
Knock this out of the park. 2017. Here we go. No mistakes.
Yes. I mean, this is the one that we've got to watch tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be tweeting all over that.
It's got to happen. And actually, if you looked at there's a live stream at the moment, I believe, a spacewalk that you can watch online. Which, I mean, obviously, you'll hear this a bit later, but definitely go back.
We should mention the spacewalks. We should mention the spacewalks. Yeah, they've been on the International Space Station. They've been changing lots and lots and lots of batteries. Yeah. I think that's what they've been doing. So they're replacing the old batteries with these super, super duper batteries.
Nice.
And I believe Tim Peake laid some of the groundwork for that.
Yeah, it's something that you don't really think about, isn't it? You know, batteries on the space station. Yeah, I guess it's like your TV remote control. You never think you'll ever have to change them. But, you know, that day comes. So...
Yeah. And then later on this week, we've got an Atlas V. That's going to be launching a military satellite. It's got no solid rocket boosters. So it's just a 401, 4 metre fairing, no boosters, 1 Centaur upper stage. Sick. I've got a final thought for you, Jeremy.
Here we go.
I thought this was...
I like a final thought. We're a proper podcast now.
Here is my final thought. You know Mars bars, don't you?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Mars, massive company. Yeah. Now, they've just bought another company called VCA.
Oh, yeah.
And their main business is pet care.
Okay.
So here we go. Americans spend $62 billion a year on pet care products.
So when you say pet care products, what are Mars going to be making? Like their chewy bones? But with chocolate in it.
I guess like that sweets isn't a big enough business for them. They want to get into
well,
pet
I mean,
care,
if there's £62 million being spent on pet care, they want a piece of that pie.
So 62 billion, no billion, not million, billion, on pets. Yeah. What's NASA's annual budget?
NASA's annual budget is $19.3 billion.
That's like only a third of what America spends on its pets.
Yeah,
in fact, it's 0.486%, roughly 0.5% of the total budget.
Wasn't there talk of it being upped to 1%, or is that have I made that up?
That would be a significant increase, wouldn't it? That would like double their figures. I mean, it's just.
But yeah, like you
crazy.
put some, reading the stats, it is crazy. Former NASA administrator Mike Griffin mentioned recently that US consumers spend more on pizza than NASA's budget. $27 billion a year on pizza. Jeez.
It's my favourite one. Other than the 586 billion, which is orders of magnitude more on gambling.
Yeah.
They also spend 64 billion on illegal drugs, of which then they have to spend twice that on the healthcare related to that drug use. If they just said, right, no illegal drugs this year,
no drugs or gambling,
then we could easily colonise Mars.
Then there would be, about another 650 billion to spare. Definitely achievable.
I wonder what the percentage of our budget is spent on UK space agency.
That is a good question, Matt. We'll have to find that out for the next poddy.
Anyone out there know the answer, please email.
Absolutely,
or,
and keep emailing your questions in. We love hearing from you.
So if you've enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher and give us a nice review.
Subscribe. Matt, please give people our website address. What's the best site to go to?
It's www.interplanetary.org.uk.
Oh, yes. Get involved, and we'll speak to you next week.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for joining us again.
Cheers, guys.
You've been lovely.
You have.
Bye-bye.
Bye.